Hey, welcome back. I am Ramona, and this is the Smell of Logic channel where we read Reddit stories and advice and other stuff. This one is people who worked as a cashier at a store. What was the weirdest, most absurd encounter you've ever had? Having been a cashier for many years and many different jobs, this is going to make me laugh, I bet, sometimes. Okay, had a customer who wanted to see my feet and then tried sucking my toe. That's never happened to me, thank God. That's disturbing, and I'm kind of scared now. When I worked for Goodwill a few years ago, a guy stuck his tongue out at me and said, "You should let me hold one of those dollar bills. I know you be sneaking one of those with you." Edit. Imagine the most scratchy voice ever, like ever. Most creepy vibes ever. I don't know, that creeped me out. Creeped me out so bad. I have not been a cashier ever since that. The amount of people who ask outright if you used the sex pills and whipped cream makers behind the counter. Extreme couponers back in the day. They would bring out coupons the size of a mini novel, expecting to capitalize on every single one, but have an attitude when they conveniently skip over the limit one per customer. Or the expired, because, they forget about them. Well, it still should be good. No, afraid it's not. My favorite was a guy taking his family out for a spending spree. Everyone got 2 new pairs of shoes. Tries to pay with a check he printed off at home because he said banks scam you by charging to print your own checks. I told them that if it didn't have an FDIC insured logo, we couldn't take it. I wonder if he went home and added that logo to the next batch he tried. Similarly, a woman freaked out because we digitally ran, this was in 2019 and 29, the check as soon as we handed it to us. She said I was going to overdraft her, and the reason she used the check is that it would take several days to clear. Oh yeah, people do that all the freaking time where I work. It's annoying. My mom used to do this. If groceries were $150 and she had $50 and was getting paid within 3 days, she'd just write the check for $150, knowing it wouldn't clear until she got paid. It was a fun loophole stores have since now closed. And they get very angry at that. Yeah, I used to open up on Saturdays and Sundays. Every Saturday, without fail, a guy would come in with a nickel and ask me to break it into 5 pennies for him. He didn't even buy anything. It got to the point where I kept 5 pennies stacked on the register so I wouldn't have to open it, because the boss got mad if we used the button to open the register without ringing up a sale. And I would just take the guy's nickel, give him the 5 pennies, and he would leave. I put the nickel in the drawer on the next transaction, and everything would be square. This kept up for an entire year I worked at this newspaper stand. I don't understand that. It's weird. A regular customer at a gas station always tried to pretend he forgot. He filled his tank with gas and just tried to pay for a pack of gum. This was back in days when you turned on the pump for the customer and they paid cash. I once had a guy pay for his groceries with a jar of pennies and insisted on counting each one out. It took forever, and he wouldn't let me help him. Yes, there are still people who do that too. Oh yes. I worked at a shady liquor store late night in my summer break from uni. Liquor store was in Canada and frequented by truck drivers, but otherwise completely dead. You would go for hours without seeing anyone, and I worked alone. One rainy night, a giant truck driver came in. I'm pretty tall, but this guy towered over me, probably 7 feet tall, with a Confederate hat and belt buckle. Looked like the Undertaker, if he was not a racist asshole. Don't get scared that often, but this guy freaked me out. Really dangerous looking and sounding guy. Starts talking to me for a bit. Then, of course, things get real racist fast. Glad to see a white guy working here. So many of them coloreds usually work for these places. Do any of them N-word work here? On and on for like 30 minutes with me just nodding in my head, hoping he left. I wish I could say something back, but I didn't. I just wanted the guy to leave. I think about this dude from time to time. Never seen or heard such blunt hate in my entire life. As a bag boy during high school, and once had a homeless man come into my checkout lane, high as hell with a lizard on his shoulder, just laughing to himself. And then he looked at me, pointed to his lizard, and said, "This guy's so high he can't even move none of his ligaments." I'm assuming he meant to say ligaments. A good friend worked at a 24-hour gas station for years when he was younger. He had the most amazing stories about weird encounters. One night, a car pulled up. The driver got out and opened the passenger side door, and a guy wrapped up in duct tape got out. He hopped into the store, asked for a pack of cigarettes, asked Jimmy to put the pack in his mouth, and then hopped back out. He got back in the car, and they left. And someone replied with, "Sounds like some hazing." Yeah, I'm thinking that was some sort of, bet or joke or something. Worked at a DVD rental kiosk at a local supermarket a lot in high school and college. I have 3 standouts from that time. 1, I had an extended argument about late fees with a deaf customer where both of us were furiously scribbling notes at each other on the receipt paper about when her last movie was returned. She eventually got them revoked by the manager because of course she did, but that effing copy of Happy Feet was a effing week late. I know because I scanned the GD thing. 2, I had an elderly Asian customer who would always ask me about the new action movies that came in every week. I always gave my honest opinions, or at least what I'd heard about it, and he'd always nod and browse. Every single time he would insist on tipping me like $10 a visit, no matter how much I insisted that it wasn't necessary, and that our store didn't let bad boys get tips, much less hungover kids who work in video. I had the same argument every time, but by God did I pocket those tips and not report them. 3, likewise, part of the game back in the day, and I suppose now, was shooting the shit with customers, which is something I miss. If they were in the store for a while, I'd try to be as friendly as possible and keep a conversation going if they were receptive. Mostly talks about movies, etc. The only time this backfired when I was talking Guy Ritchie movies with a roughly 55-year-old customer for a while. He ended up giving me his personal cell phone number, asking me to come over to his house for a steak dinner. Part of me was flattered, and the other part was vaguely worried that I was going to have to head to the parking lot after my shift and get kidnapped, as it turned into a steak dinner. Where do I start? I had a woman try to fight me once because I said, "Have a nice day," as she was leaving. One lady let her kid eat a diet chocolate bar while she shopped, and the kid spit chocolatey spit all over the groceries the whole time, and I had to ring it up. Thing is, those chocolate bars had a warning on the wrapper not to eat the whole thing or it would act as a laxative. I bet she had an interesting night. Had another lady from the rich community across the street buy a case of wine, asked me to carry it to her car, then asked me if I wanted to go back home with her and help her drink it. I declined. I had an older woman with a kid ask me what my nationality was, and when I told her, she said, but like in a groaning sexual way. It felt pretty uncomfortable. Had another customer came up to me and said, "I hate bitches like you." He then proceeded to say he hates me because I have all that muscle and skinny body. A couple awkward moments passed, then he offered me to work for him. I very gladly said no. Not me, but my friend was telling me she had a guy come in and hold up a gun at their store. We kept yelling at her and eventually took off his mask and said it was just a prank, blah, blah, blah. His friend was videoing. Well, security closed the doors and police were called and he got arrested. Police explained that they would definitely serve time and they were just started crying in disbelief. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I never spoke to or interacted with the guy, but when I worked at a department store, a guy that believed he was Jesus would sit on the bench across from the store and watch me for hours. He would just sit there and smile. It was so bizarre. He wore a white robe and always had a gaggle of women with him that wore white robes. I think he was trying to recruit me, but that wasn't happening. They eventually moved on. I worked at a gas station overnight that was right down the street from the local dive bar, and we sold hot food. I had a drunk older lady come in to order a pretzel with cinnamon sugar on it, and she was cashing out. And as she was casting out, started unbuttoning her shirt, trying to convince me to put extra on it. I was like 16. Checked out a mom and a daughter. Daughter was cute AF. Checked the receipt, remembered the last name. A couple weeks later, maybe the daughter started dating her for a couple of years. She told me that her mom told her on the car ride that she noticed that I kept checking her out. I regularly helped a customer that had some kind of intellectual impairment that I couldn't identify. He needed a lot of extra help because he could read numbers but was otherwise illiterate. His grandmother would send him with a list because she knew a literate employee would help him get what he needed. I got aggressively hit by him on hit on by him one night. I had to be escorted to my car for a month by a security guard so they could cut him off. This store was in the ghetto and robbed at gunpoint twice, had gang members in regularly, and was generally unsafe, but I was more afraid of that one guy. We had computers that only accessed the company's website. I suggested this customer could use one to order an item my store had run out of. She laughed and said, "No, you don't want me to let you use your store computer. I'm a hacker. I could get myself a 75 discount from any online store I want, and no one would notice. I once hacked the CIA database to make it look like my dad is not dead, just deported." Okay then. My first job was at a gas station convenience store. A woman comes demanding to give her receipt. She hasn't stepped foot in the store until now, so I tell her that I can't do it because she didn't purchase anything. She starts yelling at me, telling how it's illegal not to give a receipt and all that other crap. Again, I tell her that she didn't buy anything from us, so she doesn't have a receipt. I finally get it out of her that she sent her husband in, so that's the start, but it's not enough. We're busy. I've had 20 guys in here in the last 10 minutes, but she won't tell me who her husband was. I'm not sure how she expected me to know which one was her husband. She continues to yell and tells me what he bought, so finally I can print her receipt, but she's still being all Karen and yelling how she's going to call the cops on me. All that for a receipt for a single bottle of Diet Coke. Didn't work as a cashier. The office had a wall of shame with Polaroids showing people caught shoplifting with the items they stole. It was weird seeing some people I knew on there. One was my neighbor. My first Christmas in retail, and these two blue-haired old ladies got into a fist fight over who was first in line. Handbags were flying, and they had to be broken up by our security guy, who was twice as large as both of them together, and ended up with a black eye. Retail kills any love for the holidays right out of you. Oh, God, yes. That's very true. I worked at a water and ice cream store, and an old man asked me what the difference was between chocolate chip and chocolate chip cookie dough. And I said, well, one of them has cookie dough. And he said, "Are you being smart with me?" I said, "No, I'm not." And he left. When I was in second grade, I had a crush on a little classmate. She was pretty and fun to be with and lived not far away, and we would do things together. I really don't recall what exactly, but she had a younger brother, and sometimes the three of us would play at their house. At the end of third grade, she told us that she was moving away. I had a very vague memory of being very upset, not knowing and not wanting to show it. From fourth grade through my junior year of high school, I never saw her. Then, as a cashier at a drugstore in a mall, as a high school senior, and it was a very busy day with long lines on a Saturday, I think, and she was in my line. I instantly recognized her and actually said, "Long time no see." She acknowledged remembering me, but asked that if I ever saw another fellow we went to school with who lived closer than I did. I hadn't seen him and could not give any information about this. That was more than 50 years ago, and it pains me to recall all that. It's kind of a weird story. Let's see. Worked as a cashier at a hardware store. An old lady bought a bunch of paper bricks, which I had to load into her pickup. While I was ringing up her order, she says, "How am I supposed to get these out of the truck at home?" And I'm thinking, "Lady, this isn't my problem." She then gave me her address and asked if I could come to her place when I get off work and unload the bricks. She probably offered me a little side cash, and I was a teenager with lots of energy and a need for money, so of course I obliged. But that was quite forward of her to assume. Working third shift at a 7-Eleven in a bad part of town in the late 1980s, there was a lot of absurd shit, but I guess the most absurd and scary was the night some psycho chick the guy I worked with must have pissed off came in there and went after him with a metal bat. She just ran with it and started chasing him around the store, wildly swinging it the whole time. She destroyed the store instead of my coworker. Gotta give the guy props for a top-rank dodging and running ability, if nothing else. Broke one of the glass cooler doors, knocked a couple of appliances off the roller grill and counter to the floor, upturned every freestanding rack and display, trampled and shattered thousands of dollars worth of inventory. All this carnage I saw after the fact because I was squeezed into the corner of the office, a claw hammer in one hand and the phone in the other. Once 50 showed up and wrangled Henrietta Aaron. I called the store manager to come in and asked and finished up my shift helping him clean up, and then I quit. That was the last straw for me because I had seen countless other crazy things happen in there, including seeing the same boss that I was now helping drag a shoplifting junkie out of the parking lot and soundly wail the dog shit out of him on another night after he stole a bunch of cigarettes for the 57th time. 2 weeks after I quit that night, the store got robbed on my shift, so I think I dipped just about the right time. An older woman pulling warm bills and coins out of her bra to pay. She was seriously rooting around in there to make exact change. I worked at a hardware store. One day, a whole family of Asian people, over a dozen, came into shop and asking about axes and hatchets. We kept them away from customers' view, so we had to run up and down a flight of stairs about 15 times. Apparently, they wanted good quality stuff for when they went back home. Tried to explain that it would be nearly impossible to get it through customs, but they didn't care, and we sold over 200 pounds of axes that day. Not me, but a friend of mine worked at Walmart at night, restocking and other boring shit while the store was closed. One night, she was putting dog food on the shelves and heard this strange whispering noise. She looked around to find no one, worried she was going crazy, and followed the sound to the next aisle. After tracing the noise down to a specific shelf, she stopped completely. She freaked out and grabbed the paper towels off the shelf, revealing an older teenage boy with a stash of chips and a video camera. Turns out he was trying to film one of those 24-hour challenges where it was growing popular back at the time. She screamed and ran to get her manager, and the kid ran out of the store and never came back. Well, there you go. There's some strange stories of being a cashier. Those aren't as strange as I was hoping, but maybe my experiences have just been a little weirder. Of course, in New Mexico, everything is strange. Anyway, thanks for listening and watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you don't mind, leave a like or a comment. Maybe share this video or one of the others, or maybe subscribe to the channel. And go check out a few more. There's a whole bunch on here. So thanks, and we'll talk to you later.